On this International Women's Day, we celebrate the power of women leading the charge towards a more sustainable future. Today, in our The CSR Universe Leaders Talk segment, we have the privilege of welcoming a true visionary, Ms Gayatri Divecha, Head of CSR at Godrej Good and Green. Ms Gayatri isn't just a leader. She's at the forefront of tackling a critical environmental challenge, plastic waste management. Let's welcome Gayatri man and begin.
No, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be interacting with all of you, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
That's great. Likewise. So, ma'am, let's begin with the questions, shall we?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So, while plastic circular cities aim for sustainability and zero landfill, can GCPL articulate a clear strategy for scaling this initiative beyond the initial 6 cities? And what long-term vision does GCPL have for achieving national impact?
Yeah, it's a great question. Plastic circular cities is in fact a scale up of the work that we've already been doing in plastics. We at GCPL, our work on waste management and specifically plastic waste management actually started 5 years ago with Pondicherry, where we partnered with the municipal corporation as well as all other urban local bodies and the Union Territory Government of Pondicherry to ensure better waste management systems as well as behavior change of all citizens, both in, at a household level as well as in public spaces, to segregate and dispose of waste more responsibly. We then worked with with the urban local bodies to ensure that the whole collection system and material recovery facilities were functioning optimally. That was the first pilot we did. So the work started then 5 years ago in Pondicherry, and since then has grown to Pondicherry, Malanpur, Palashbari in Assam, as well as around Baddi. The latest edition has been the Plastic Circular Cities Initiative in partnership with FICCI, India Sanitation Coalition, and 3 of our plastic waste management partners, Recity, Feedback Foundation, and Sampurn Earth. So this is the first phase. We see it as the first phase of scale up, where we said we've been doing this in different geographies that are obviously important to GCPL. Maharashtra is also important to GCPL. Can we take this model, look at a state level approach where we target cities that are important to the state government, all the 6 cities that were chosen in partnership with Mahua, and the state government was really 1 million plus cities where plastic waste is a significant plastic waste and waste in general waste management is a challenge. And so if this works here, the idea is that GCPL, ISC, and these 3 partners do foundational research and baselining of the entire waste management system, understand what's working and what's not. We already have government buy-in to work here, and then we bring in others to help solve this problem from a funding and expertise perspective. So in that way, what we are trying to do is play more of a catalytic role, because we realize that GCPL cannot solve this problem alone. No one can solve this problem alone. So if we get others, and we are open and collaborative, if we get others on board and pool our funds effectively, then we can scale up much faster to, other cities in Maharashtra and other states in the country as well. So this is I'd say phase 1 of scale up for us, where we try out what does scaling look like. And, if it works, great. If it doesn't, there's bound to be multiple failures. We will learn from those and then, design next phases accordingly.
Okay. So Gayatri, you just mentioned that, it is very difficult to, change mindsets. And you have also dealt with diverse geographies. So, first of all, I would like to know what kind of challenges you faced. And secondly, do you think what could be the importance of giving incentives, incentivizing this entire waste management process? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the challenges are multiple. See, every city functions differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every city has different institutions involved,
Right.
whether those are government institutions or contractors for waste, etc. Right?
Mm.
Every city has its own, cultural sort of practices and ways of doing things, right? So it's, while one can have a framework of a model that can be applied everywhere, there have to be nuances and it has to be tweaked on ground. Right? There are multiple stakeholders involved in the waste value chain, right? Right from people who are generating waste, people like you and me, to bulk generators, to then the entire informal sector that is also, let's not forget, economically dependent on waste, right?
Mm.
Rag pickers, kabadi walas, etc.
Yeah.
So how do we do this in a manner that is just and fair, right? We don't want to take people's livelihoods away through
Absolutely.
formalization. So how do you take people along when
Mm.
different people have different interests at different parts of the value chain?
Mm.
That is the crux of the challenge in waste management. Um, and at the same time change behaviors enough, etc. So, and there are multiple agencies involved in waste collection, in running MRFs, and so on. Even, government has been phenomenal in terms of policies and so on, in the availability of funds for setting up MRFs and recycling centers and so on. But let's not forget also, it's a long drawn out process for an
It
urban
is.
body or a panchayat to apply for those funds, then to float a tender,
Mm.
to have somebody to take care of it. So, you get into all of the specific challenges of different government departments, of
Mm.
NGOs, because they have their own challenges, and one has to work with NGOs also, of
Mm.
businesses. They have a different set of challenges of the informal workers and so on. So, it's a multi-stakeholder sort of value chain, and
Mm.
therefore, challenges of each state, the unique challenges of each stakeholder play out and have an impact on the overall programs. So I think the key to it really is being collaborative, is truly operating from that space of partnership and being willing to fail, because we will fail
Mhm.
at more things than we will succeed at. And
Right.
don't always appreciate that, neither in the corporate world nor in the social sector, that everybody obviously wants to talk about successes and not failures, but the truth is that there are more failures than for every success there are at least 10, 12 failures that have taken place. Even having started in 2019 in Pondicherry, where we are 5 years later in Pondicherry, is far from
Mm.
ideal, right? Is the honest truth of it. Yes, there has been progress. Are we at 100% segregation at a household level? No, we're not, right? We should be. So that's what I mean by the authenticity and the honesty in partnerships, is we should be willing to admit what is challenging and what is going wrong, because
Mm.
without awareness there is no success possible, right? And that takes time to build, right? It takes time to build
Mm.
that level of comfort in honesty, and and in calling out challenges in a productive way, right? And in a in a constructive way. So these, I mean, those are this, I mean, this is an indication of some of the several challenges, right? Again, waste pickers, sanitation workers, moving them to more dignified sort of work, right?
Mm. Mm.
It needs to be done. Even something as simple as, wearing safety gear or gloves
Absolutely,
might
yes.
not all let's I mean, if you put
Yes.
yourself in that perspective, it's, boiling hot summer. In some parts of our country, it gets 50 degrees in the summer, right? And you're
Mm.
wearing these rubber gloves. How difficult must that be, right? Something as small as that we don't always appreciate. For us, we see it as safety, but there's the comfort in being able to do the job. I'm not saying they shouldn't wear gloves. They absolutely should. It has to be, I mean, the livelihood and the activity must be hygienic and safe for them as well. But when we try to understand why are those safety gears not being used the way they should, do we put ourselves in their shoes, right? So multiple challenges unique to each stakeholder. I think the key is being able to work in a partnership, genuine partnership mode, and work together to solve these challenges, even if it takes time, right? This is not an area that lends itself to quick results at all. It's going to take time, and we have to be in it for the for the long run and through the thick and thin of those of those challenges. Incentives, I think incentives work for everything, right? We're all human beings. We all want we all want to see some benefit from doing what we're doing, right? And those exist, right? There are multiple ways of doing it. We certainly, for us, the most effective so far has been access to entitlements for sanitation workers. So people that are working within waste value chains, can we connect them to their government entitlements? And there are plenty of them that they are most of the time not even aware of. So, something as basic as ensuring they have their identity documents, proper Aadhaar card, etc., to bank accounts, to giving them financial literacy, to helping them do savings, creating self-help groups, and then unlocking all the various government subsidies and benefits that exist for for that individual, is where we spend quite a bit of time and energy, as well as fund this work in partnership with NGOs and social businesses that are experts at what are the subsidies available, right? So that has been extremely successful, because they then they see the value of engaging with us. They see the value of doing things differently. There's always some give and take, right? So that has worked. Other than that, I think there's also economics involved in waste, right? The value of waste materials don't have a sort of set and standard economic value, right? Obviously PET has become more and more valuable from a plastic perspective, but what is the value of that flexible, chips packet or gutkha packet, or what you normally see littering, littered in public places or in nature, right? Or, film, that's the other one, like cling film, for example, so difficult to collect, very little, if not no resale value, right? So these working out these economics also will take time. And everybody who is involved in collecting that should see some economic value come back to them, right? Sampurna Earth does this beautifully. They have we support an MRF that is in Goa, that is solely focused on flexible packaging. So they've trained all of the waste workers there to understand what are the different kinds of flexible packaging, and be able to separate those out, so that they can then go for further processing. There's a recycling facility for these flexibles close by, where which Sampurna Earth also runs. The flexibles are then, it's a process of mechanical recycling, where these flexibles are then made into pellets that are then used for things like pipes, that serve for irrigation and other purposes. Those are the typical end buyers. And the waste workers who have done the segregation actually have a stake in the sale of the recycled material, right? Which then incentivizes them to do the segregation much better, because if you get poorly segregated materials, then it can't be recycled properly, and then you cannot convert it into pellets, which will not be bought. So linking, giving them a share in that sale has been absolutely amazing, and really the brainchild of Debat and the Sampurna Earth team, which we found to be very effective. Now, can that be scaled everywhere? is $1 million question. You know, it depends so much on the waste that is being collected in the first place. So there are all these dependencies also, right? So if the chain is working well and flexibles are being collected and brought to an MRF where they are then segregated properly, only then can there be that linkage built. If the feed material is non-existent, then it becomes very difficult to even incentivize anyone.
Absolutely true. Can I ask one more question
Okay,
added to
Recity, go
this?
ahead.
Just one more.
Yeah.
Gayatri, we were talking about SHGs over here, self-help groups. So
Yeah.
can you share an example where they have actually made an impact and how they have helped the workers, the waste management workers, and how have they been able to streamline the entire process? If you have some examples to share.
So the SHG approach helps in ensuring that workers are, have access to things like financial literacy and have structures with which they can save, right?
Okay,
So it's
okay.
less about the process itself, and more about how do we ensure their well-being. And give them, because then there's government funds available for self-help groups also. If one is, if the idea is eventually, could waste worker self-help groups be an enterprise? Could it transition to being a waste enterprise? We've not yet done that. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if anyone has, I'm sure somebody has done it successfully in waste, but certainly it's been, we see the value of the self-help group structure in bringing about more financial savviness, more financial awareness, and then being a savings structure for communities that need it.
Okay,
I
great.
also had a
Thank you.
question. Actually,
Oh.
Kumi, sorry, I'll just add one more question. Gayatri, you said about when you were talking about scaling, that pooling of funds. I mean, I know it sounds very simple, but it's a difficult thing to implement. But I think almost every organization wants to or is already working towards better waste management, particularly plastic waste management. So are there any efforts going on, or are they at least beginning to think towards pooling of funds or working together, working more collaboratively? So how is that happening between the corporates?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can speak broadly for FMCG, where there is a lot of collaboration. We not just on our CSR program. I mean, now we're looking to collaborate on our CSR programs as well, because we're all also connected, right, between the large FMCG companies in India, right? We meet each other often. There are plenty of platforms where we interact, and we support similar programs. We work with similar partners. This is exactly why we started this Plastic Circular City initiative, was to bring some formality and structure to that, saying that if we've identified these cities, and we've identified what needs to be done and mapped out what's working and not working, then those who want to pick up these projects as part of their CSR, it's like a ready-made, tailored sort of thing. You literally have to pick off a menu that this city makes sense for us. And we have, whatever amount of funds to give. So that's on at least the CSR piece. Where there's a lot of collaboration already is on the business side of things, right? On packaging and plastic packaging. So we are all members of things like the India Plastics Pact, which is an incredible platform bringing together companies that have a large plastic footprint to talk about challenges and solutions and collaborate on on approaches to improving that plastic footprint. So, and IPP does a really superb job of bringing us insights for our own packaging. Like, for example, we've created a checklist of what are the kinds of design interventions we need to take in terms of coloring, etc., that inherently lends to plastic being better recycled. And then what are the kinds of innovations in, recycled, post-consumer recycled, flexibles, and so on. Now, these are platforms where all of us, like, Unilever, Marico, Godrej, Dabur, everybody who's using plastic packaging engages on platforms like these, and we share, learnings. And this is well beyond CSR and sustainability teams. Our packaging teams are actually involved in these kinds of things. Because I think we've all understood this, that, that progress can only happen on plastics if we come together. It's not going to happen in silos. So that's why we hosted with ISC. We hosted at our at Godrej One, our headquarters. Last Friday, we had this Plastic Circular City, event where our partner organizations presented their findings from these 6 cities. We had several large companies in the room, HUL, ITC, JSW, were all there and interested in understanding what role they could play in moving the needle in these 6 cities, and beyond. So we see it's always challenging to collaborate. We all want to do it more, but it takes time. And, we're seeing that the intention is there. And to me, that is really the most important piece, because if the intention is in the right place, then whatever challenges come up, we can solve for.
So how will GCPL utilize the data collected during the initial research phase to inform and refine its intervention strategies? And what metrics will be used to measure the success of the project and its impact on plastic waste reduction?
Yeah. So for us, it's not just GCPL that will have access to this research. It's all public data, or it will all be made public data. We certainly don't want to hold it at all with us, because it's not proprietary data for GCPL. The idea is to baseline these cities. The idea is that we baseline these cities and their waste systems currently existent, as well as the waste generated in these cities, so that this forms a platform on which action can be taken. So we've already, our partners have already come up with strategies that will, with strategies and action areas that will help fill the gaps that they have identified, and now are building models of exactly what needs to be done for each city, and what that will mean in terms of resources, funds, time, etc. All of this has been presented to the ULBs of those cities as well. And then the models are being created and are being pitched to funders to fund our partners to do this work. While as well as the ULBs have been bought in from day one, which would provide the permissions, etc. So the scope of work from here on is twofold. One is for partners to play their part in solving for the issues with corporate support, and ULBs to help ULBs plug gaps that the ULBs need to plug. So to help ULBs access funds for material recovery facilities and other infrastructure for which funds exist at various levels of the government. So to help ULBs access those funds and get those facilities built and made, and then the partners work on strengthening the entire waste value chain from segregation all the way until material recovery facilities. So, and all of that information is public information. It's not GCPL's information. It will be provided to whoever wants it. There's a report that will be going out. It's in the process of being edited and designed, so that anybody who wants to pick up these cities and support the transformation of these waste management systems in these cities can do that. Measure of success of this project is how many of these models get funded, and how many of these models get fully implemented, and how much waste is then being properly treated and segregated. For us, all waste programs, the ultimate metric of success is source segregation, processing of waste, as in treatment and processing of waste, and what is being recycled. Basically, what is being diverted from landfills and ending up in nature. That's how we measure success. Of course, there are sub indicators that we look at, such as the well-being of waste workers, such as the efficiency of of the material recovery facilities. Are they running at capacity? Are they generating enough operating income to cover costs and so on? So basically, do they break even? So we look at all of those sub indicators, but the highlights are these three, right? Segregation, collections and processing of waste, so that we are sure that it's diverted from landfill.
Right. Okay. So ma'am, my next question is, how will GCPL assess the effectiveness of its BCC efforts in raising awareness and encouraging responsible waste segregation practices among the target communities?
It's so
And there's
Yeah.
a latter part to the question as well. Are there plans to adapt and optimize these strategies based on feedback and data?
Yes, absolutely. So everything we do is data based. We all of the partnerships from 2019 onwards, every single waste management program, we actually track waste. In Pondicherry, we've implemented a QR code system with Recity as well. And we at any given point in time, we have a clear idea. We have to, because we work with urban local bodies who also have a clear idea of what is the percentage of what is the percentage of source segregation, and what is the percentage of households that are covered by segregated collection systems. So for us, really, the answer to this question is the source segregation metric, which is tracked from household all the way to MRF, right? Because the better segregated and better the better the waste is treated at a household level. And most people, even if you have the best of intentions and are segregating waste, right? I didn't know this till we started working in waste management, that you can have a separate bin for dry waste and organic waste, as in compostable waste. But if you're, for example, a takeout container, if that's not being washed, it's not going to get recycled, right? Because it's got a layer of oil and masala and whatever else on it, right, which needs to be washed off. Most waste management facilities in our country don't have this washing system. And so how does that get achieved at a household level? Is critical. So, we've, to answer your question, it's really, all of this is tracked from the household onwards. And it's, on an ongoing basis, it's this data that helps us fine tune, right? We understand which area in a particular municipality needs more attention from a behavior change perspective, right? We understand when, where collections are not working optimally, right? So everything that we do is based on not just collecting data at large, but collecting relevant data and this feedback loop of, okay, so what do we, how does knowing this help us or help improve the program?
Right. Okay, that was very insightful, ma'am. And with that, I'll ask my last question for this segment. How does Godrej address potential social equity considerations within the initiative? And are there plans to ensure that all community members, including marginalized groups, have equal access to information, participation, and benefits from the project?
Yes, so we work in an area at large, right? The thing about waste management is that one cannot have a segmented by population approach, because it's the same one system that serves everybody, from the person living in a high-rise building all the way to urban settlements and slum areas. It's the same system. So, if it's the same system, then there is no sense in sort of, segmenting and categorizing people. And, some people get awareness and, and information, and others don't, because that doesn't help the waste management system function better. So for us, it's quite simple. It's everybody. If we're looking at, let's say, 5 wards of Pondicherry, we're actually looking at all. But, if we're looking at, let's say, 5 wards of any place, right, then all households have to have behavior change. So we'll work with, that awareness will go to RWAs, it will go to urban settlements, it will go across the board, because ultimately everybody is generating waste. It will also go to bulk waste generators such as, restaurants, hotels, stores, etc. So it has to be for us, for Godrej as a group, not, equity and equitable, and being equitable with our programs and all of our work, whether it's CSR or climate action, right? This thread of equity is very key, right? And it comes from our values and history as a group. So, there's one aspect of that is how we run everything we do in CSR and ESG. But beyond that, if we don't include everyone in waste, then, the program becomes a waste, right?
Yeah.
So that's how we think of it. This is on the behavior change, etc. piece. And then again, the entire all of our waste management programs are designed to function with all stakeholders. So, citizens, businesses, government agencies, companies that are contractors that are responsible for waste, the whole informal economy, everybody's involved. So that's how we see it. Without everyone being involved, there is really nothing to work on.
I think
Absolutely.
Ruchika had a question, Kuhu. Just
Yeah.
one last one, actually.
Sorry. Yeah. I just wanted to know that is Godrej also looking at integrating technology-driven solutions for waste management, or even, vermicomposting, something to, maximize the resource recovery?
For us at the moment, it's more digitizing the tracking of waste and
Okay.
gathering. So it's more on the data than anything else, so that we know where are the gaps in the value chain, and where does more attention need to go in order to maximize the amount of waste that is going into formal collection systems, so that it can go to a material recovery facility, and then whatever recycling possibilities depending on the type of waste. So for us right now, the crux is on technology for the right type of data and tracking. There are plenty of technology solutions available, in terms of what happens with segregated waste. Of course, composting and all is critical. And there are in many of the areas where we operate, that's fairly well taken care of. It's more around dry waste, effective recycling of dry waste, plastics, and hard to recycle plastics. That's where we need to see a lot more technology solutions come up. There are things like pyrolysis and so on, but that's not an ideal solution either, because again, from the perspective of an FMCG that uses plastic in packaging, the more post-consumer recycled plastic there is that's available, the more of that we can use in our products instead of virgin plastic, right? So that's where the whole landscape is currently.
Right. So hopefully we will not have like a Wall-E situation and we'll be able to take care of the plastic
Planet.
waste and all kind of wastes. So with that, thank you, ma'am, for your leadership in sustainable waste management. The Plastic Circular Cities initiative is a powerful example of positive change. We look forward to more inspiring conversations.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, ma'am.